Electronic viewfinders are an area of the filmmaking market we really haven't seen the price of good options drop over the past few years. However, today we are looking at a new product from Z CAM. You know, the guys who've been causing a stir with their fantastic E2 camera series, providing build, features and specs at a whole new price point. Well, this is their new EVF, and Z CAM are looking to achieve what they have with their cameras with this. This unit we have with us is an early pre-production unit, and we have fed back some things to Z CAM for them to improve on, which we'll get into later. First off the bat, let's talk about why a viewfinder is preferred over a monitor and the current state of the EVF market. Having a flexible and good quality viewfinder is really important for so many shooting scenarios, especially when you are shoulder mounting the camera for long periods of time. An EVF will allow you to obviously do the same kind of monitoring assist as an external monitor, but the experience of using an EVF is much different, and a lot of operators prefer operating with an EVF as it allows you to focus more on the image without any outside sources or elements obstructing your view. So if you're looking for that kind of experience, then an EVF could be for you. However, because of the hefty price of existing EVFs on the market, a lot of operators have been priced out, and you've seen solutions that turn monitors into EVFs, which are never as good as dedicated EVFs. So the fact we are seeing a high resolution viewfinder at this price point with its feature set is awesome to finally see. But let's take a look at it physically. The viewfinder is made just as well as Z CAM's E2 series. The body is made from solid metal and it feels just really well put together and surprisingly dense, with it weighing roughly 612 grams or 1.5 pounds. It's also not too big, which means it will feel at home on most camera rigs. But let's have a walk around it. Starting at the top, you have a single 1/4 inch thread and 2 antenna ports for the included antennas. You also have covers for the ports if you don't want to use the wireless function, which we'll get into later. These feel decent and not like they're going to flop about all over the place. On the bottom, you have the serial number and another 1/4 inch thread for mounting. On the front, you have the I/O of the EVF. Here you have a full-size HDMI port that can handle 4K up to 30p, a full-size USB port which will be used for loading LUTs and firmware updates, a 2-pin LEMO for powering, and an SDI connector which can handle 1080p up to 60 frames per second. This means you can easily power the EVF via most DTAP sources on batteries, and the positioning of the cables and power ports means you can pick up a combo cable such as the Hawkwood one here for tidy cable runs. On the back of the unit, you have a proximity sensor, which is great to help reduce burn-in and save power. You then have the eye cup. The one on this pre-production unit isn't great, and it comes off way too easily. However, Z CAM have said that they will be updating this. I'm also intrigued to see if any third-party eye cups work with this. If I get to test any past this recording today, I'll put them in the description or in the comments below. You have a very large diopter range of -8 to +4. This means that you have a huge range to adjust to make sure everything is sharp for you, and every person I had to take a look at this didn't have an issue getting things sharp. Adjusting this is smooth, but it has a good amount of resistance to make sure it's not easy to knock while using it. It also has a scale, but this doesn't really seem to relate to anything. It's just more for you to take note of where it's sharp for you and then easily move it back to that position after someone else uses it. The optics of the viewfinder are alright, but you can see sharpness shift slightly as your eye moves. However, there isn't any colour shift when you do this. The screen inside is a 1440 by 1440 LCD panel. The screen can output 10-bit colour, and the image looks really good considering it isn't an OLED like a lot of the other more expensive options on the market. 1440 by 1440 is a pretty high resolution when you compare it to the rest of the screens used in its competition. However, when we put it side by side with the graphical eye, we did think the graphical had the slight edge when it came to clarity. However, the Z CAM makes the image larger in your eye, and colour does look better. However, one downside of the Z CAM we did notice was that you can see the pixel grid. On the left, you have 6 buttons. These buttons are soft to touch and have a good amount of travel. These are actually my favourite buttons that Z CAM have ever implemented. I wish they were on their cameras. You have menu, OK, up, down, F1 and F2. One nice touch here is the protruding lines surrounding these buttons, so you can easily tell where your fingers are while you're looking down the viewfinder. You also have a physical on-off switch. Why this isn't a standard on EVFs, I do not know, but this will be a huge feature for some, as with other EVFs in the markets, you have to pull the cable out or use a cable with a power switch on it to do this, so it's great to be able to do this on the unit and save some power when you need to. You also have a light on the side of the unit. This will turn red when you turn on the unit, and then as soon as you plug a source in that it recognizes, it will run green. This is a really fast way to see if you're receiving an image if you haven't got your eye to the EVF. On the right, you have a single rosette, which you can remove. This will allow you to mount it onto a range of different rigging. However, please note that this is using a metric or M6 thread, so it won't work with something like the Axis Mini. But we will talk about accessories later. Now let's talk through the menu system. The menu system of the EVF is very similar to that of the E2. You have 3 main menu tabs and then all the sub-menus. First, you have tools. In here, you can select from a range of tools versus scope. This allows you to define the 3 scopes that are shown when in layout 1. And then when in layout 2, your first scope will be the one that is shown. You then have peaking, which you can choose from a few different modes: color, sharpen, outline, and monochrome. You can then change the color and then the threshold. You then have your exposure tools, which are false color, zebra, monochrome, and blue only. With zebras, you can change both your low and high percentage. You then have your D-squeeze settings for a range of ratios. And then lastly, you have LUTs. Here you have a range of LUTs already built into the viewfinder for ZCAM, Sony, Red, Arri, and Panasonic profiles, but you can also import your own LUTs via the USB in the front. The next tab is shortcuts. Here you can rebind the 6 buttons on the side of the EVF to a massive range of functions. You can assign magnification, which has 1 level, and then you can move around that magnification with the 4 function buttons, pretty precisely actually, which is really nice. You then have peaking, scope, which cycles through the options, exposure, which cycles through the options mentioned before, and LUT, which toggles your loaded LUT on and off. Lastly, you have setup. Here you can select the video source, which you will need to do if you switch at all, as there is no auto detect, which I think should be added. You can then adjust the LCD brightness. You can toggle between layout 1 and layout 2, which switches what scopes you see from just 1 to 3. You can then see your Wi-Fi device name and toggle it on and off, as well as change the Wi-Fi channel. You can then clear the settings, change your language, check the status of the unit, and see the firmware version. And that's it. One thing that currently is missing is frame guides, but ZCAM has confirmed that that is coming. So this EVF has a bit of a party trick, and that is the ability to wirelessly output the image you are monitoring over Wi-Fi to smartphones and tablets. This is pretty unique for an EVF and could come in really handy if you want someone to see what you're monitoring without adding on another piece of kit to do this. It's really simple to do as well. Just install either the included antennas or you could pick up some short ones to use instead to keep the EVF a bit more compact. Just make sure they can handle the 5 GHz signal the EVF uses. Download the ZCAM app to your phone and connect your phone via Wi-Fi to the EVF. The default password is 123456778. You can then open the app up and you have a live feed from your camera. When close, the latency is actually pretty fantastic as well, only around 10 milliseconds from our testing. When it comes to range, ZCAM haven't really stated a number, but have said between 50 and 75 meters will work fine. During our test, we managed to get to our max of 50 meters without any issues, and even managed to get a decent distance through some walls in between us as well. You can connect multiple devices at once to the EVF. ZCAM have said that the max theoretical amount of devices is roughly 3 to 4, which matches what we managed to get working. The app itself is also really handy considering it can work with any camera. You have a massive range of features and monitoring assists to choose from. However, one really interesting feature is the ability to stream from the app. All you have to do is put your stream URL and key in, and boom, you're streaming. This is pretty awesome. Other than that, the app features a range of handy monitoring tools such as peaking, scopes, focus assist, frame guides, and LUTs, and even a beautify mode if you just want to feel extra fabulous. So getting it rigged is really going to be depending on what camera you're using and what you feel comfortable with. However, one thing to note is that the thread on the rosette is metric, not imperial. That means that you need to make sure if you're using the rosette to mount it, that you're choosing an accessory that uses an M6 screw instead of a 1/4 inch. This EVF NATO bracket from SmallRig allows you to switch the screw between metric and imperial, and will then allow you to mount the EVF onto any NATO rail. This means you can pick up a NATO rail from SmallRig like this one and then rig it as you want. It also has a 1/4 inch on the bottom, so you could even pick up the 1587 EVF bundle from SmallRig if you wanted to, but I would advise using the rosette if you can. However, SmallRig will be releasing other products for this EVF, so keep an eye on our website for those. The EVF itself looks really decent. I do feel that the UHD 30 image does look a bit better than the 1080p feed into the SDI, but with both options you can see the pixel grid of the screen, which isn't great. However, the image is nice and large in the viewfinder, and it's laid out well. The optics of the unit are decent, but you can see sharpness shifting as you move your eye about. This doesn't happen with more expensive EVFs on the market. However, given its price, it's a really solid option. With it being a pre-production unit, there are some things that could be improved though. The eye cup is very easy to pop off and actually cuts the image you can see. We suggested making this wider and more secure on the unit. You also have to switch between HDMI and SDI manually in the menu instead of the EVF auto-detecting, which would be nice for it to do. We've been waiting years for technology in the EVF space to drop in price, and it's great to finally have someone new come into the EVF space and shake things up a bit. The Z CAM EVF isn't perfect, but for its price point, it's an extremely solid option for any operator looking for a well-built, decently featured, and good-looking EVF for their rig. There are a few things that could be added, but that's the beauty of Z CAM. If you join their Facebook group and give your feedback, there's a very good chance that people could agree with you and the Z CAM listen and implement your request. I'm very excited for these to start shipping, and I think they're going to be really popular. I can't wait to see the final release and see what else they add into this little thing. Let us know what you think of the Z CAM EVF in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and make sure you hit subscribe and the notification bell. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.